So you're going to call the video the acceleration and consolidation of cognitive development in ToK teaching?
Yeah, I like to be specific and precise.
Yeah, but it's a bit of a mouthful.
Well, how about calling it speeding things up, or just speed?
Wasn't that a film with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock back in the 90s?
Was it?
Yeah, the film was about not having enough time to finish a complex task with tragic consequences ensuing upon failure.
Well, that sounds about right for ToK then. Welcome to ToK Today. My name's Daniel, and I'm your bus conductor on today's magical mystery tour. This is the third video in the series of videos for teachers who are new to teaching ToK. And today's video is on pace and progress through the course. Let's get into it. The IB says that you should have a minimum of 100 hours of teaching for ToK. But many schools find it difficult to deliver even 100 hours. Many ToK teachers say that it's difficult enough to fit the course into 100 hours, and even harder to fit it into less. In today's video, what I want to do is to show you how to successfully teach ToK in 100 hours or less. Okay, so tip number one is go slow to go fast. Your first instinct may be to try to go as quickly as possible, to cover the options and the themes and the areas of knowledge as fast as you can. What you need to do is to slow right down. Yeah? Don't go quickly, go slowly. Now this may seem antithetical to what you're trying to achieve. Go slow to go fast means focusing on deepening student understanding. Don't worry about covering content, worry about developing ToK skills and ToK thinking in the students. If you focus on building ToK skills early in the course, then the students will be able to go faster later in the course. The key to go slow to go fast is to focus on building the skills necessary for IB mastery in the ToK course. Later on, ToK Today will be bringing you lots of videos on how to build ToK skills. The next video in this series will be an introduction to building ToK skills, so just wait for that. In summary, a focus on building ToK skills will help you to cover the curriculum faster than charging through the areas of knowledge and the optional themes. The second tip for speeding up ToK coverage is abstraction and Raiification. Now, why do some students find it so difficult to learn ToK, and some teachers find it difficult to teach ToK? The reason, I think, is that ToK requires you to abstract from the real world and to Raiify the real world, or real life context, I think it's called in the new syllabus. I mean, look at this. In the real world, it's a coffee cup. But in the ToK world, it has a whole set of knowledge associated with it. It is a knowledge object which has its own scope, it has its own methodology, it has its own perspectives. So how do we teach students to abstract and Raiify from the real world? Well, the most effective way that I've found is Kolb's learning cycle. It's a 4-stage model of learning which you can use in planning lessons, and it helps the students to move from that real world into that abstracted and Raiified ToK world. As I say, I use Kolb's learning cycle to plan lessons. For each stage, I attach an activity to it. And I find that this really helps the students. So in later videos for ToK Today, we'll be getting into exactly how you can use that model to plan your ToK lessons around. In summary, in order to abstract and Raiify the world, draw upon the expert constructivist models which are out there. Those models are based on research. They've done the work for you. All you have to do is apply them in ToK. Let's get on to the third tip. The third tip is making the familiar unfamiliar, or to give it its highfalutin education term, we'll call it redefining schematics. We know that when we're teaching ToK, we're teaching critical thinking skills. But what does that actually mean? What does that look like in reality? How do we operationalize that? Well, here's my tip. Early on in the first lesson or two, I teach the students that the first rule of ToK is to question the question. So whenever I ask them something and they start trying to answer, I say, no, question the question. So yes, let's get all Magritte about this. So a good starting point is to get the students to tacitly question their own held beliefs and assumptions. We call this questioning the question. So they'll be questioning the statements and the IB prompts, like, what do we mean by culture? What do we mean by new knowledge? Can you define what is meant by seek? And so on and so on. Just always form questions based on the questions which have been asked. So let's draw these things together. If you're worried about getting through the course in 100 hours or less, don't focus on course coverage. Go slow to go fast, abstraction and reification, question the question, or make the familiar unfamiliar. None of these are rocket science. They're not innovative pedagogy, but focusing on those things rather than on the content will allow you to speed up the teaching of the content later on in the course. Okay, well, I hope that you found that useful. In the coming months, we're going to have lots more videos on the things that I've touched on here. We'll go into a lot more detail on things like Kolb's learning cycle, and I'll talk a lot more about abstraction, and we'll get into making the familiar unfamiliar. But for the moment, it's time to get off this bus. Bye!